Good morning, afternoon, depending on where you are in the country or around the world, evening. It is Steve Lookner with Agenda Free TV. We are here to bring you live coverage of the White House press briefing and also updates about what is going on with the Trump administration while we cover the White House press briefing and take your comments and questions on the air. The White House press briefing is coming up in 15 minutes, so we're going to have live coverage for you. And I appreciate you joining us here. And also, hang on a moment here. Just getting organized. I want to thank our moderators who are here right now with us. We have Beth Mythical is moderating. And over on X, Linda Belk, Larry, and... Ooh, what is this? Linda Belk, Larry, and Misha on and on Twitch we have A Moment of Lovely, Matthew Kohai 3, and Surly Dev. And thanks to our Facebook viewers too. Viewers, of course, our viewers, but also our moderators. I meant to say moderators. We have our moderators over there are people like Kay Lowry Body, Margaret Riley, Paul Anderson, and others. Thanks to Martha Crawford for subscribing on Facebook. Okay, let's give you some updates. Again, this will be at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, if it starts on time. Okay. So there's a couple stories I want to mention here before the press briefing. I want to talk about the UK saying before their prime minister meets with Trump, the UK has said they're going to raise their defense spending to 2.5% of GDP. And also, AP reports 21 people from Doge, technical people, have resigned. So we're going to talk about that too. And thanks, Yo-Yo, for your support. I appreciate it, Yo-Yo. Okay, let's start by talking about this. UK to raise defense spending to 2.5% of GDP by 2027, Starmer says 2 days before Trump meeting. Trump has wanted other NATO countries to increase their defense spending. Prime Minister of the UK, Keir Starmer, pledged today to raise UK defense spending to 2.5% of gross domestic product by 2027, saying Europe is in a new era of insecurity that requires a generational defense. Now, part of this might be that they don't think the U.S. is as strong an ally anymore. The announcement came 2 days before Starmer is due at the White House to try to persuade U.S. President Trump to maintain American support for Ukraine and the NATO alliance. Keir Starmer said, "We must stand by Ukraine because if we do not achieve a lasting peace, then the economic instability and threats to our security, they will only grow. And so as the nature of that conflict changes, as it has in recent weeks, it brings our response into sharper focus, a new era that we must meet as we have so often in the past together and with strength. The UK currently spends 2.3% of gross domestic product on defense, and the government had previously set a 2.5% target without setting a date. So now they've set a hard date. That would amount to $17 billion, 13.4 billion pounds additionally a year. The announcement by the UK came as European countries scramble to bolster their collective defense as Trump transforms American foreign policy, seemingly sidelining Europe as he looks to quickly end the war in Ukraine. Trump has long questioned the value of NATO and complained that the US provides security to European countries that don't pull their weight. Starmer is due to meet with Trump at the White House on Thursday. So, maybe Keir Starmer and Trump will do a press conference Thursday like President Macron of France and Trump did yesterday. If so, we will cover it. By the way, Keir Starmer is going to be giving a press briefing at some point soon. So maybe I'll show you a little of that before the White House press briefing, if it works out, if the timing works out. Let me take some comments from you guys. Barry, our viewer, says Starmer has a 0.001% chance of convincing Trump to continue throwing money at Ukraine. One of our viewers said cutting foreign aid to pay for it. As you can see here, to pay for the increased defense spending, overseas development aid will be slashed by 0.5% to 0.3% of national income. He said, calling that a very difficult and painful decision. Yeah, I'm going to talk about the Doge thing shortly. Austin Batman says UK will have to increase taxes. Well, the article doesn't say that, but I don't know what'll end up happening there. Lulu thinks Starmer has ruined our country. I guess Lulu is from the UK. No, Trump's press. I don't think Trump is going to speak at the White House press briefing. It would be his press secretary. And there could be other people speaking too, but I wouldn't expect Trump to speak. We haven't covered a press briefing in a while, though, but I figure there'll be a bunch of discussion of big issues. So I wanted to cover it. I was interested in it, and we're going to cover it in 44 minutes. In 44 minutes. Oh, I have the article about Doge, by the way, from AP. 21 employees to resign from Doge, refusing to dismantle critical public services. Now, by the way, hold on. Now, Keir Starmer is speaking soon. Really quick. Really quick. I'd kind of like to pull this up for 2 seconds. Hold on. We'll get to the article in a second.
Because 3 years ago in Ukraine, that is exactly what happened. Just reflect on that for a second.
This is live, Keir Starmer of the UK.
Just imagine you're walking to work, taking your kids to school. Just another February morning like any other. Then suddenly, missiles, sirens, explosions, not in the distance, not on television, in your town, hitting your community, killing your friends, an invading army in your country. Now, the people of Ukraine have woken up to this nightmare for 3 years now. Their courage is inspiring. And Britain can be proud of its response. British families have opened their doors to fleeing Ukrainians. The yellow and light blue flag flies on church halls and churches, the length and breadth of this country. And I will put on record again that I respect the robust response taken by the previous government. I supported it in opposition, and we have built on it in government, taking our support for Ukraine to record levels. But as the nature of that conflict changes, as it has done in recent weeks, it also brings our response into sharper focus. And I believe we must now change our approach to national security so we are ready to meet the challenges of our volatile world. The reason for this is straightforward. Putin's aggression does not stop in Ukraine. Russian spy ships menace our waters. Russian planes enter our airspace. Russian cyber attacks hit our NHS. And just 7 years ago, there was a Russian chemical weapons attack in broad daylight on the streets of Salisbury. We can't hide from this. And I know people have felt the impact of this conflict through rising bills and prices. But unless Ukraine is properly protected from Putin, then Europe will only become more unstable, and that will hurt us even more. Furthermore, the great lesson of our history is that tyrants like Putin only respond to strength. So today I have announced the biggest sustained increase in defence spending since the end of the Cold War. We will keep our manifesto commitment to spend 2.5% of our GDP on defence. But in light of the grave threats that we face, we will bring forward that target so we meet it in 2027. That is an increase of £13.4 billion year on year compared to where we are today. And we will go further. I have long argued that in the face of ongoing and generational challenges, European countries must do more for their own defence. That is incontrovertible, a completely reasonable point. It is a generational challenge, of course it is, but one we must now take on. So subject to economic and fiscal conditions, we will also set out a clear ambition for defence spending to rise to 3% of GDP in the next Parliament. Clearly, this is the first and foremost a security imperative. But I also believe that it's a tremendous opportunity. We can use this investment to rebuild Britain's industrial base. The first test of defence policy is always whether it keeps our country safe. But the second should be whether it improves the condition of the British people. Does it help provide the economic security that working people need? Because ultimately, that is fundamental to national security as well. So mark my words. We will make sure this investment maximises British jobs, British growth, British skills and British innovation. And we should be optimistic about the change that it will deliver. Nonetheless, in the short term, this investment can only be funded through hard choices. And so today I've decided that we will fund the initial increase in defence spending by cutting our spending on overseas development, moving from 0.5% of GNI to 0.3%. I want to be clear, that is not an announcement that I'm happy to make. I'm proud of Britain's pioneering record on overseas development, and we will continue to play a key humanitarian role in war-torn countries like Sudan, Ukraine and Gaza, in tackling climate change and supporting international efforts on global health challenges like vaccination. And we will do everything to move towards a world where we can rebuild our development capacity. However, the realities of our dangerous new era mean that the defence and national security of our country must always come first. That is what I campaigned on in the general election. It is what we are delivering today. A new approach on defence, a revival of our industrial base, a deepening of our alliances, the instruments of our national power brought together, creating opportunity, assuring our allies, delivering security for our country. At moments like this in our past, Britain has stood up to be counted. It has come together, and it has demonstrated strength. And that is what the security of this country needs now, and it is what this government will deliver. I will now take questions from the media. I've got Beth from Sky first.
Thank you, Prime Minister. For months you've refused to give a time frame of when you'd hit spending 2.5% of GDP on defence, and now you've accelerated that. Isn't the simple reality that a Trump White House has now bounced you into that acceleration and that decision? And you say this is a generational moment, you reference the Cold War, you sound like a Prime Minister on the war footing. Should viewers be alarmed at how significant this moment is, and what does it really mean for our national security? Thank you.
Well, Beth, this is a significant moment. And that is why we've got to rise this generational challenge. It is a moment where we have to fight for peace through the action that we take. And in relation to your question about the timing, I think in our heart of hearts, we've all known that this decision has been coming for 3 years, since the beginning of the conflict in Ukraine. The last few weeks have accelerated my thinking on when we needed to make this announcement. And I'll be very clear about that, because it is absolutely clear to me now that the decision that, as it were, started life 3 years ago needs to be taken now to rise to the challenge that we have to face. The conflict in Ukraine is about the sovereignty of Ukraine, but it's also about security and defence in Europe and our security and defence. And the first duty of government is to ensure that its citizens are secure, and that is why I'm taking that as a matter of duty and responsibility today. Thank you, Beth. Can I go to Carl, ITV?
Thank you, Prime Minister. I mean, the Russians have been in Ukraine for 3 years now. What has changed is the response from the White House. You wouldn't be making this announcement today if you weren't going to see Donald Trump on Thursday, would you? And could I also ask, is he the reason why you've decided to take the money for defence from the aid budget?
Well, on the timing, I do think that this is a decision that's 3 years in the making. I do think that we've known that this decision had to be taken. Of course, the discussions about talks between the parties, a possible peace, what that might mean for European security, the role the UK would have to play in that, has brought our response into sharp focus. I have made a commitment for the safety and security of our country that we will play our full part in any security guarantees if we get that far. And that includes a commitment, if necessary, to use capabilities such as putting our boots on the ground, subject to the US backstop. But it is that context, and in that context, that yes, I have pushed our system to move this date forward, because I think it's vital that we take this decision now, that we rise to the occasion, and we show the leadership that's needed across Europe in response to a very changed context, and that's why I've made this decision today. Thank you. Chris Mason.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Chris Mason, BBC News. Picking up on Carl and Beth's question, what do you say to those people who might think that Donald Trump is now effectively setting UK government policy? And have you done an assessment on the impact of the cutting of the aid budget? Thank you.
I've been arguing for some time in most of the meetings I've been to since I've been Prime Minister for 7 or 8 months now, that European countries, including the United Kingdom, needed to do more for our own collective self-defence and security. So that is not a new argument. Yes, it's true President Trump thinks we should do more, and I agree with him. It chimes with my thinking on this. And by more, I mean more capability, I mean more coordination, and I need more spending. And we have to learn the lessons of the conflict, particularly when it comes to capability and coordination. The war being fought in Ukraine, I felt this very strongly when I was there a few weeks ago, is being fought now in a very different way to the way it was being fought just 3 years ago, We're seeing firsthand what conflict looks like in Europe in 2025. We have to respond to that for the safety and security of our country. So this is very much my decision based on my assessment of the circumstances that we face as a country. And it is taken first and foremost to ensure that the United Kingdom and its citizens are safe and secure. That is the first duty that I have as Prime Minister. It is my duty, my responsibility, and that is why I have taken this decision today. Thank you.
All right, so we've been watching a little of the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer announcing that there is an increase, he's going to increase defense spending in the UK. And that is seen, you could hear by the tone of some of the questions, it is seen as a, I don't know if you could say likely, I think, certainly suspected that this is a response to the UK feeling that, UK government feeling that maybe Trump is not as committed to supporting NATO as previous US administrations have been, as I mentioned in the article we were reading before. So, as AP said in their article, the announcement came as European countries scrambled to bolster their collective defense as Trump transforms American foreign policy, seemingly sidelining Europe as he looks to quickly end the war in Ukraine. So I wanted to show you guys that. We have a White House press briefing coming up in about a half an hour. I have some other stories I want to mention. So we'll go away from this, but I'm glad we got to check out some of that. I'll take a few more comments from you guys on that. But hang on a moment. I want to just quickly do this and do this. And let's see here. Also, we're going to talk about this story too. 21 staffers from Doge resign. But these are people who I believe were there before Elon Musk came in. Let's see here. Almighty Tree said about the UK increasing defense spending, the US was a strong partner, but if they fall away, we need to fill the gap. Simple. Toddy Giovanni says all these leaders admitting they haven't been doing their part. Harry Taylor says we are tired of paying for Europe's defense. The gravy train is over. All right. So we're gonna again. Maybe that'll be asked about in the. Oops. Hold on a second. You know what? I wanted to show you this article, but I'm showing you the wrong thing. Here, it's this one. It's the same article. Well, it's almost the same. Okay, hold on. 21 employees resigned from Doge, refusing to dismantle critical public services. So I want to show you that article. All right, hang on a moment. Hang on a moment. I'm guessing this will be asked about in the press briefing. Here we go. Here it is. More than 20 civil service employees resigned Tuesday from Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, saying they refused to use their technical expertise to, quote, dismantle critical public services. The employees also warned that many of those enlisted by Elon Musk to help him slash the size of the federal government under President Trump's administration were political ideologues who did not have the necessary skills or experience for the task ahead of them. Now, from what AP was reporting, these are people who had been with the organization that became Doge when the Trump administration came into office. It's not people that came in with Elon Musk. I know it's a little confusing. According to, I'll tell you this. Hang on. Just to give you some more background on that. So AP said that the staffers who resigned worked for what was once known as the United States Digital Service, an office established during President Obama's administration after the botched rollout of healthcare.gov, the web portal that millions of Americans use to sign up for insurance plans through the Democrat signature healthcare law. All of the staffers that resigned, the 21 staffers, previously held senior roles at such tech companies as Google and Amazon, and wrote in their resignation letter that they joined the government out of a sense of duty to public service. They wrote, according to AP, I assume we'll see this resignation letter at some point. They wrote that the day after Trump's inauguration, they were called into a series of interviews that foreshadowed the secretive and disruptive work of Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE. According to the staffers, people wearing White House visitors badges, some of whom would not give their names, grilled the nonpartisan employees about their qualifications and politics. Some made statements, according to the staffers who resigned, that indicated they had a limited technical understanding. Many were young and seemed guided by ideology and fandom of Musk, not improving government technology. The staffers wrote in their letter, their resignation letter, several of these interviewers refused to identify themselves, asked questions about political loyalty, attempted to pit colleagues against each other, and demonstrated limited technical ability. This process created significant security risks. And just in terms of numbers, so there were around 100 of these tech staffers who were in this department before it changed its name to DOGE. It was previously called the United States Digital Service. And according to AP, about 40 of them were fired when Elon Musk came in, and they changed the name to Doge. And hold on a second. Yeah, earlier this month, about 40 staffers in the office were laid off. And then there were about 65 staffers remaining from this department from the previous administration, and about a third of them quit today. So I'm guessing this will be asked about during the press briefing. By the way, a quick thanks to Jason Carlton for the gift memberships. Thank you, Bebop and Rocksteady, who says those 21 civil employees seem to be holdovers from previous administration. So yeah, I can see them not being happy about Doge. So as I mentioned, yes, there were 21 who were from the previous administration. I don't know when they started, though. According to AP, they said that they said in their letter, "We swore to serve the American people and uphold our oath to the Constitution across presidential administrations," they wrote in a joint resignation letter. "However, it has become clear that we can no longer honor these commitments." So they're saying that they've been ready to serve. Maybe they have. I don't know how long they've been there under different administrations. But I don't know exactly when they all started there. By the way, also, speaking of Elon Musk, last night at 11:59 p.m. was the deadline given on the email that he had sent out to all. He had this email sent out to all federal employees that they had to say what they had done in the last week in 5 bullet points, I believe it was. And the deadline was last night. And it was not clear if anything was going to come of this email. So we'll have to keep an eye on that as well. Also, a bit of confusion as to, it's not clear what's going to happen because of this. And different departments in the government were telling their employees different things about whether they should reply to it and so forth. So there was some confusion there. By the way, you can reach me on X at Lookner about 20 minutes until the press briefing. Which we will be covering live. Let me just make sure I don't have any breaking updates here. You never know what's going to happen. Yeah, and just in terms of the confusion around this Musk email, Natasha Bertrand, there were multiple reports about this from different outlets last night, one of them being CNN. So Natasha Bertrand from CNN reported yesterday that, actually, it was Hadass Gold from CNN reported yesterday, but again, multiple outlets were reporting this, that the Office of Personnel Management in the U.S. government told human resources chiefs at all agencies yesterday that responding to the Elon Musk "What did you do last week?" email was voluntary, and that failure to respond does not equal resignation. But also, Natasha Bertrand from CNN mentioned that the Office of Personnel Management sent out more guidance late last night about how employees should respond to the "what you did last week" email. And that guidance did not characterize the replies as voluntary. So there's confusion over among government employees, at least among some government employees, as to do we need to reply to this thing? If I don't reply, could I get fired? Yes, no, and it's not exactly clear. So I would not be surprised. I would certainly expect a bunch of questions on that during the White House press briefing. Maybe we'll get some clarification. HM Doppelganger, our viewer, says big internal power struggle there. Here's an article. This is a Reuters article from today. Musk's latest ultimatum to U.S. federal workers deepens confusion. Federal workers faced fresh uncertainty today about their futures after Elon Musk... Oh, did he give them another chance? I didn't even see this. He wrote on X late Monday that people were getting another chance. I didn't even see that. I got to check this right now. Let's see. I have to go back and find it. He's been posting a bunch, so I'll have to go back a little way. Where is it here? Where is it here? Maybe he posted it in a reply. I can't find the original post right now. Oh, here it is. So, Elon Musk, he posted this yesterday. I didn't even see this. Sorry, I bet a bunch of you saw it. Subject to the discretion of the president, they will be given another chance. Failure to respond a second time will result in termination. So this person, Matt Walsh, said, fire any federal worker who didn't answer the email. Fire any who complained publicly about the email. Fire any who complained privately about the email. Fire any who did anything but cheerfully and promptly answer it. And that Elon Musk wrote, subject to the discretion of the president, they will be given another chance. Failure to respond a second time will result in termination. He had originally said, if you don't respond to the first email, that will be considered resigning. Our viewer Corgi Girl says, privately, question mark, question mark? Songbird says, is that legal? I can't speak to the legality or not of any of this. I'm not a legal expert. I don't know. John Miller says it doesn't sound legal. I'm going to repost this because I hadn't seen it last night. Anyways, that was posted at 7:06 p.m. last night. Kyle Johnson thinks lawsuits are incoming. Tony the Pison thinks it's perfectly legal. So I wouldn't be surprised if this was asked about, if this is asked about in the White House press briefing in 15 minutes. One of our viewers, Ryan Jones, says, why does it not sound legal to you? Now, I know that various federal workers have various legal protections. I don't know the specifics. Reuters had mentioned this in their article. Reuters said federal workers face fresh uncertainty today about their futures after Elon Musk gave them, quote, another chance to respond to his ultimatum that they justify their jobs or risk termination, contradicting guidance from some Trump administration officials that the request was voluntary. The confusing back and forth has rippled through the federal bureaucracy. Over 2 million federal employees, by the way, with some agencies, such as the U.S. Treasury Department, instructing workers to comply, while others, such as the Pentagon, have not. It has become a test of how much power Musk wields over the U.S. government's operations. Employees across the government received an email over the weekend asking them to summarize their accomplishments of the past week by Monday. In a post on X, the social media site Musk owns, Musk asserted that failure to respond would be considered a resignation. With the deadline approaching on Monday, the Office of Personnel Management, the government's human resources arm, run by Musk aides, told workers they could ignore the email. Musk said last night, as we showed you, subject to the discretion of the president, they will be given another chance. Failure to respond a second time will result in termination. The White House did not respond to a request for comment on Trump's remarks, on Elon Musk's remarks. I'm sure it's going to be asked about in the briefing in about 13 minutes. Prior to the new OPM guidance, Trump told reporters yesterday, which we saw during our coverage, that workers who did not respond to the first email would be sort of, I think he said fired or sort of semi-fired, adding to the uncertainty. OPM, meanwhile, turned its attention to senior managers in the civil service on Tuesday. Acting agency head of the OPM, Chris Ezel, published a memo requiring poorly performing managers to be fired and directing their superiors to evaluate them in part on how well they advanced the president's goals. Jim says semi-fired. What? Yeah, I wasn't clear on exactly what the president meant like that yesterday when he mentioned, and he said semi-fired. So basically, it's just not clear at the moment what's going to happen with these emails. And whether workers are required or not to respond to it. Pamela Smith thinks semi-fired could mean administrative leave. Unseen thinks it's just a test to see who is still active and not just collecting checks. Let me know if you think there's other things that are going to be asked about in the press briefing, which is supposed to start in about 10 minutes. In about 10 minutes. Hang on a second here. If I get a feed from the room beforehand, I will certainly show it to you. I don't have that yet. But if I do get a feed beforehand, I will let you know. I have my eye out. But no feed yet from the actual White House. Pamela Smith says, expect questions about budget negotiations. You know, March 14th is the day I believe the federal government runs out. Officially, we'll have to go into shutdown if a new budget bill isn't passed. That's March 14th. So thanks for bringing that up. I do want to mention that. That definitely could get talked about. Let me show you. Will this say something? U.S. House Republicans set for vote on Trump's tax cut agenda, says Reuters. The Republican-controlled U.S. House of Representatives will try to take its first step today toward enacting President Trump's tax cut and border agenda, giving Speaker Mike Johnson hours to corral wayward Republicans into supporting the effort. Johnson appears to lack the near-unanimous support he needs from his 218 to 215 Republican majority, not much of a majority, to deliver on Trump's $4.5 trillion tax cut plan, which would also fund the deportation of migrants living in the U.S. illegally, tighten border security, energy deregulation, and military spending. A handful of hardline Republicans have said they oppose a budget blueprint that seeks to cut $2 trillion of spending over 10 years to pay for the agenda, with apparent support from billionaire Elon Musk, whose Department of Government Efficiency is targeting government workers and programs. Representative Thomas Massey of Kentucky, one of 3 Republicans who want deeper spending cuts, more spending cuts, says if the Republican budget passes, the deficit gets worse, not better. Elon Musk replied to Thomas Massey on X, "That sounds bad." The U.S. federal government currently has more than $36 trillion in debt, and the House measure would clear to take on another $4 trillion in debt. Current funding for federal agencies runs out on March 14th, guys, 17 days from now. And Congress will face another deadline later this year to raise the government's self-imposed debt ceiling or risk triggering a catastrophic default. Also, House Speaker Johnson faces uncertainty among a large number of lawmakers who represent swing districts in large Hispanic constituencies who are concerned that deep spending cuts could harm programs that provide food assistance, scholarship grants, and the Medicaid health care program for the poor. Some of those lawmakers appeared to be more upbeat late on Monday, saying they had been assured that aid to Medicaid beneficiaries who are citizens and had federal support for the program would not be scaled back. The House is due to vote at 1:30 p.m. today on whether to begin debating the budget resolution. A vote on passage of the resolution was set for around 6 p.m. Whether those votes proceed as scheduled will depend on the behind-the-scenes negotiations in the hours leading up to them. So, will the House and Senate be able to pass a budget deal by the 14th of March, or will there be a government shutdown? I do not know. That sounds like a poll question to me. That sounds like a poll question. So I agree with the viewer, though. This could definitely be asked about today. Will there be a government shutdown on March 14th? Because that's when they have to pass something by. All right, I'm putting this in the chat, and we'll see what you guys say. I have no idea. Fear-mongering? Mason D says I'm fear-mongering. I read you a story about how the difficulties, the small Republican majority, the fact that a number of Republicans are saying they're not going to vote for this current bill. And I'm saying that they have to pass a bill by March 14th or there'll be a shutdown, and I'm doing a poll. And I guess that's fear-mongering. Hang on, I'm just posting the poll in the different platforms. Hang on a second. Almost have it posted everywhere. All right, we're going to show you what you guys said about this. Paul James thinks the government won't shut down this spring. Okay, so I asked you guys, I said, will there be a government shutdown on March 14th? That is when the funding runs out. So over on YouTube, the current vote is 56% no, 44% yes on YouTube. On Facebook, it is 60% no, 40% yes. And on Twitch, the current vote is 51% yes, 49% no. By the way, speaking of Twitch, thanks so much to Massachusetts Guy for the bits. Thanks Euchra King for the bits. Thanks I Got That Fire for subscribing. Thanks to CPL Full for the bits. Thanks on Twitch. Thanks to Farquad67 for subscribing. Thanks Psyops for the bits. Thanks Fun Employed for subscribing. Fun Employed says it takes 2 minutes to send a short email. Thank you to also Multicorker for your support from Canada. Thank you. Multicorker says, how do people feel about Elon, a Canadian citizen, and Elon, a Canadian citizen, not American, and who seemingly is calling the shots? By the way, is Elon Musk a Canadian citizen? He's from South Africa. I think Isn't he an American citizen? Multi-corker, you're from Canada. Oh, is he Canadian as well? Is he a citizen? Born in South Africa. Citizenship, yes. South Africa, oops, hold on a second. Wikipedia, I didn't realize this. South Africa, Canada, United States. According to Wikipedia, he's a citizen of all three of those countries. South Africa, Canada, and United States. By the way, thanks for voting in our poll. I'm going to get rid of the poll. How about that? I never realized that. Three, citizenship of South Africa, Canada, and U.S. There you go. Multi-corker was right. But he is also an American citizen. All right, hold on. We're very close to a press briefing. I have video from the press briefing. Hang on, guys. Hang on. I got to get the video on the screen. Look what we got on the screen for you right now. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this from the White House live. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Amazing. Wow. Now, when they start, I'll probably switch to the White House stream because the White House, this is the Reuters stream. The White House stream tends to show the questioners, which I like to see as well. So I'll probably switch the feed. You know what I got to do? Well, the White House hasn't started their feed yet. But again, just to heads, oh, they have started. So what I'm going to do is, just give me a sec here. Is this going to work? Let's see. Hold on 1 second here. Hold on. Let me fix this. Okay. We're good to go. We're good to go here. Here we go. I think that's Jackie Heinrich standing up from Fox News. Hey, thanks to Chris Canada, Quebec City, who says we can sell you our 33% citizenship of Elon Musk if you want. Thanks also to IR Geek. Hey, thanks IR Geek. I really appreciate your support and your kind words. Thank you, John. John thinks yes to a government shutdown. Democrats will do anything to oppose Trump. The thing is, though, the Republicans have a majority in the House and the Senate, and they don't need any Democrat support to pass a budget bill if they're united. Because I think they're going to use this thing with reconciliation to pass the budget bill, which means they only need a majority in the Senate. So they don't need Democratic votes if they can agree. But Democratic votes would help them, but I don't know how likely they are to get any. Thank you. John thinks not. Thank you, John. Thank you also, Nicole Hammett, for your support. Oh, so obviously I should get rid of my clock because the time is counting up. So let me just do this real quick. Let me get rid of the clock, and I'm going to change the headline to Soon White House Briefing. Starting soon. White House press briefing. Thanks for your patience while I fix this. Why is this all weird? I don't know, but I'm going to fix it like this. Okay, so we'll do this, and we'll do this. Where is Caitlin Collins? Says Augie Ben Doggy. I don't know. I don't know who's there today from the various news agencies. Where's Peter Ducey? Is he going to be there from Fox News? No. I'm not anticipating Trump speaking. I'm anticipating Carolyn Levitt doing it, the press secretary.
Failure to respond a second time will result in termination. Many White House officials reject the notion that there are conflicting directives and that this is at all confusing.
Jackie Heinrich is doing a live hit on Fox, I think. She's with Fox. Hey, thanks to the Great Canadian Beaver for your support. From Canada. Also, Jimmy Pope. Oh, Five Eyes, Jimmy? We didn't even mention that story.
To give access to rare earth minerals. It does not come with any security guarantees or military aid, but many of those minerals are in areas that are under Russian control. So awaiting detail on how exactly the U.S. would get access there.
There was a report.
Back on something the president said yesterday, claiming that Russia had no problem with European peacekeeping troops coming to Ukraine. So we do expect some questions today on where the...
So really quickly, Financial Times is claiming that one of the president's closest advisors, Peter Navarro, is pushing for the U.S. to remove Canada from the Five Eyes intelligence sharing network. I don't know if that's true. I haven't seen it widely reported. I am seeing here that a global news reporter, Mackenzie Gray, said that Peter Navarro said that the Financial Times story is wrong and crazy stuff. So he may have denied it. That doesn't necessarily mean it's false. Oh, yes. So the White House posted a social media post on their Rapid Response 47 account, which claimed that senior counselor Peter Navarro bats down the fake news Financial Times lie that he wants to expel Canada from the Five Eyes intel sharing network. So the White House is claiming that story is false. I don't know, but they're claiming that story is false.
Hello, how are you?
Thank you, by the way, to Joe Webb. Joe Webb says, many of us who work for Department of Defense would like to respond to the Elon Musk letter, but we've been advised not to due to the sensitive nature of our work. We're not receiving guidance from Elon on how to navigate the situation. That's what Joe Webb said. Thank you, Joe. I think there's going to be a bunch of questions about the email to all of the federal workers. The deadline of which to respond was last night at 11:59 Eastern Time. Button B and Me says, looking forward to the presser. NY Committee says, why would we not share intelligence with a neighbor we share a large border with? Thank you also, Joey C., for your support. Joey says, I work at an agency within the DOD. We didn't receive this email or the fork in the road one. Thank you, Joey. Austin Batman thinks her Doge retorts will be heavily scripted. Any moment now, this should start. We are bringing you live coverage, and then we will take your comments after. I see some other people coming in. Oh, they have, the monitors are on. The monitors are on now. I think it might be starting very, very shortly because the monitors just came on. Oh, thanks to Oxytropis for the bits. Thanks, Massachusetts guy, for the bits. Thanks to all of our moderators. A Moment of Lovely, I Got That Fire, Matthew Kohai 3, Mick Britches, Papa Bear, Surly Dev. Tribus, 97. Linda Belk, Larry, Misha. Really appreciate all of our moderators. Janet B, Beth Mythical. K. Lowry Body, Paul Anderson. Hey, thanks Erin Van S for subscribing on Facebook. Thanks Sharon Klassen Goslin for subscribing on Facebook. Any moment now. Miss Annie says the briefings are always interesting. Our viewer concerned citizen writes in, this is what our viewer concerned citizen says. Issue is not with making status reports, which are already required. It's all 2 million plus people sending them externally to one person. The chain of command is a common practice in both public and private sector, not to mention massive security risk of it all leaking. That's what our viewer concerned citizen said. Hey, thank you to Leslie Ladyhawk for the gift membership. Thanks also to Jason Carlton for your support from Australia. Again, any moment now this is set to start. Oh, the monitors went off again. Thanks Bob NL on YouTube for your support. These haven't happened enough that I don't have a sense of the White House press briefings. Will they generally be on time? Will they generally be delayed? Will it just be, you never know. So there haven't been that many of them yet. So, I mean, it's early in the term. Oh, the monitor's back on. Monitor's back on. Maybe they're trying to deal with the monitors. Looked like they were having a bit of an issue. Oh, thanks to Mitchell Pilot for the gift memberships. I appreciate that, Mitchell Pilot. Thanks to Steve H., our new member. And thanks to Red5478. Red says, sad to see so many viewers look at Trump like a king rather than another public servant. I bow to no man. That's what Red says. I'm nobody says incoming monitor hack vid. I hope that doesn't happen. Yeah, Trump, I don't anticipate Trump being there. There could be other people there, though. Maybe they might bring in one of the other Trump administration people. Rito Customs says they are having issues with the monitors. I mean, I did see that guy come out and like point at the monitor. So. One of our viewers said, Cubat says maybe Musk shows up. I don't know if he would show up when, well, has he been at one of the briefings? I mean, I know he did that appearance with, can't remember. I know he did the appearance with Trump in the Oval Office. Did he do a White House briefing appearance? I can't remember. Psyops says, when will you get your White House press pass? Thanks, Psyops. I applied for that, guest seat thing. I don't even know if feasibly I could do it if I got it, because it's a whole thing. You got to like pay to go down there, and it's a big expense to do it. And then what, you're there for like one briefing, guessing they probably wouldn't call on you. And then maybe, there's other news that's going on that I can't even cover because I'm traveling to and from there. So I don't even know if it would happen, but I applied for it. But I'll keep you posted. Thanks, Joe Webb, our new member. By the way, we didn't talk about this. Some of our viewers think we're talking about it. I was talking about other topics, but hold on. Here it is. We're starting right now. Here's Carolyn Levitt. Hang on. I'm going to switch the feed.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. How are we today?
Great.
Good afternoon, everybody. During his inaugural, how are we today?
Great.
Good. During his inaugural address, President Trump promised that America would be a manufacturing nation once again, and liberal pundits mocked him for it. But those critics were proven wrong once again. On the heels of President Trump's Oval Office meeting with Apple CEO Tim Cook last week, Apple just announced its largest ever commitment to American jobs and industry, with plans to spend and invest more than $500 billion in America over the next 4 years. Over the course of the current Trump administration, Apple plans to hire around 20,000 new workers, creating high-paying jobs right here in America. And the investment isn't limited to one specific region of our country. Apple teams and facilities will expand all over our country, in Arizona, California, Iowa, Nevada, North Carolina, Michigan, Oregon, Texas, and Washington. With President Trump in charge, America is open for business. Apple CEO Tim Cook said it best in the company's announcement: "We are bullish on the future of American innovation." On top of this incredible Apple announcement, President Trump already announced more than $1 trillion in pledged investments into the United States. And on another important note that the American people entrusted President Trump to fulfill, this administration's efforts to seal the border continue to prove extraordinarily successful. In President Trump's first month back in office alone, illegal border crossings hit lows not seen in decades, down 94% over the past year, while interior arrests are up 134%. And this past Saturday, this is a significant statistic that I wanted to share with all of you, there were only 220 illegal border crossings on Saturday. This is a 15-year low. Think about that in comparison to the amount of illegal border crossings we saw under the previous administration. Fox recently reported that a San Diego migrant shelter is closing its doors after saying they have not received new asylum-seeking families or individuals since January 20th. We all know what happened on January 20th, don't we? And yesterday, New York City Mayor Eric Adams announced that the massive Roosevelt Hotel migrant shelter in Manhattan will shut down in the next few months. We're also seeing a reverse migration effect. There are now verified reports from the Associated Press of migrants abandoning their journey to the United States and heading back home. This is the first time the Border Patrol has received these reports since 2020, during President Trump's first term. The returning migrants claimed in interviews that the new heavy security posture adopted by the Trump administration was a significant reason for their decision to return to the countries of their origin. Overall, the American people continue to overwhelmingly give President Trump very positive remarks. Nearly every one of President Trump's policy initiatives are receiving strong majority support. And I have noted that in every briefing since Inauguration Day. 81% of Americans support deporting illegal migrant criminals from our nation's interior. 76% of Americans support the DOJ-led efforts of a full-scale investigation to find and eliminate fraud and waste in government expenditures. Again, this is from a Harvard-Harris poll, a very legitimate pollster. 76% of Americans support closing the border. 69% of Americans support President Trump's common sense efforts to ban men from women's sports. As you all know, we celebrated that executive order at the White House a couple of weeks ago. 65% of Americans support the president's efforts to eliminate all preferences by race in the hiring and awarding of government contracts, which is another pledge that DOJ is working hard to fulfill. And 61% of Americans, vast majority, support the president's plan for reciprocal tariffs to ensure that other countries are treating us the way we have always been treated. Despite what many Democrats and media members want you to believe, the Trump agenda is not only necessary, but it is overwhelmingly popular. Why? Because it's driven by common sense. And finally, as you all saw yesterday, a federal judge denied the Associated Press's emergency motion for a temporary restraining order against myself, our Deputy Chief of Staff Taylor Budowich, and our Chief of Staff Susie Wiles for our decision to remove the Associated Press from the White House press pool for certain and special events. The judge's ruling, upholding our decision to deny the Associated Press such privileged access, reinforces the truth. And it reiterates what I said from this podium last week when that suit was filed. Asking the President of the United States questions in limited spaces such as the Oval Office in Air Force One is a privilege that unfortunately has only been granted to a few. It is not a legal right for all. The Trump administration has already proven to be the most transparent ever, and this president the most accessible in history. This is evidenced by President Trump's daily press conferences in the Oval Office, where he takes many questions from the journalists who have the honor and privilege of standing before the beautiful, resolute desk. The president and this entire White House are committed to ensuring the American people continue to receive this same level of historic transparency, access, and visibility. In fact, we want to double down and give even greater access to the American people. We want more outlets and new outlets to have a chance to take part in the press pool, to cover this administration's unprecedented achievements up close, front and center. As you all know, for decades, a group of DC-based journalists, the White House Correspondents Association, has long dictated which journalists get to ask questions of the President of the United States in these most intimate spaces. Not anymore. I am proud to announce that we are going to give the power back to the people who read your papers, who watch your television shows, and who listen to your radio stations. Moving forward, the White House press pool will be determined by the White House press team. Legacy outlets who have participated in the press pool for decades will still be allowed to join, fear not, but we will also be offering the privilege to well-deserving outlets who have never been allowed to share in this awesome responsibility. Just like we added a new media seat in this briefing room, legacy media outlets who have been here for years will still participate in the pool, but new voices are going to be welcomed in as well. As part of these changes, we will continue the rotation amongst the 5 major television networks to ensure the president's remarks are heard far and wide around this world. We will add additional streaming services which reach different audiences than traditional cable and broadcast. This is the ever-changing landscape of the media in the United States today. We will continue to rotate a print pooler who has the great responsibility of quickly transcribing the president's remarks and disseminating them to the rest of the world. And we will add outlets to the print pool rotation who have long been denied the privilege to partake in this experience, but are committed to covering this White House beat. We will continue to rotate a radio pooler and add other radio hosts who have been denied access, especially local radio hosts who serve as the heartbeat of our country. And we will add additional outlets and reporters who are well suited to cover the news of the day and ask substantive questions of the President of the United States, depending on the news he is making on that given day. This administration is shaking up Washington in more ways than one. That's what we were elected to do. As I have said since the first day behind this podium, it's beyond time that the White House press operation reflects the media habits of the American people in 2025, not 1925. A select group of DC-based journalists should no longer have a monopoly over the privilege of press access at the White House. All journalists, outlets, and voices deserve a seat at this highly coveted table. So by deciding which outlets make up the limited press pool on a day-to-day basis, the White House will be restoring power back to the American people who President Trump was elected to serve. So in that note, in our new media seat today, we have Shelby Talcott, who is a White House reporter for Semaphore. In 2022, Semaphore launched as a global digital news platform with the aim of bringing meaningful innovations to the news industry. Today, they have nearly 1 million newsletter subscribers spanning 11 separate editions. With that, Shelby, I will take your questions.
Thanks, Caroline. I've got two for you. One on foreign policy. Over the weekend, the President's Special Missions Envoy, Rick Grenell, was talking about Venezuela, and he said that the President isn't someone who wants regime change. Other administration officials have made clear that they don't see Maduro as the rightful leader. What is this administration's policy on a new government in Venezuela?
I think the President has made his position on Venezuela quite clear. He stands in opposition to the Maduro regime, and Secretary Rubio has spoken on this extensively as well.
And then on Doge, last night Elon Musk said that a failure to respond a second time will result in termination. Will there be additional rounds of the "what did you do this week" email from Doge to federal workers? And what's the guidance on the federal workers who've been instructed by their agencies not to reply?
So a couple of things on this. First of all, let's just take a step back and talk about this idea. The President sent out a truth last weekend to Elon Musk saying he loves everything Elon is doing and he wants him to be even more aggressive because Doge thus far has proven incredibly successful in making our government more efficient. And so Elon and Doge came up with this idea. Elon has implemented this at his private companies. It has proven successful. And it's a very simple idea when you think about it. All the Office of Personnel Management is asking, all this administration is asking, President Trump is asking, is for federal workers who live off of the American taxpayer's dime to send 5 bullet points of what they have done in the previous week. That is all we are asking for. And so the Office of Personnel and Management sent out additional guidance last night. Those responses should be directed to agency leadership, and the President defers to his cabinet secretaries, who he's obviously entrusted to pursue the guidance relative to their specific workforce. And for some of the agencies that you've seen who have said, please don't send these emails, it's in their best interest for that specific agency, and the President supports that. And let me be very clear, the President and Elon, his entire cabinet are working as one unified team, and they are implementing these very common sense solutions. You're welcome. Jackie.
Thank you. One follow-up on that question. So about the deadline, Alina Habba said that you have until tonight. Elon Musk said a failure to respond a second time would result in termination. So is that a real deadline? Should federal workers be looking to that guidance, or should they be looking to the agency heads? Like, what is the actual deadline?
So again, the agency heads will determine the best practices for their employees at their specific agencies. Again, this was an idea that Elon come up with. Doge worked with OPM to actually implement the idea, and the secretaries are responsible for their specific workforce. And this is true of the hirings and the firings that have taken place. And we advise federal workers, unless your agency has dictated you not to respond to this email. In fact, I can announce that we've had more than 1 million workers who have chosen to participate in this very simple task of, again, sending 5 bullet points to your direct supervisor or manager, CCing OPM. I actually participated in it myself. It took me about a minute and a half to think of 5 things I did last week. I do 5 things in about 10 minutes, and all federal workers should be working at the same pace that President Trump is working and moving. We have a country to save, and we want this federal government to be responsive to the needs of the American people who re-elected this president to have historic, massive reform, and that's what the intention of this idea is.
Can you clarify one thing, though? Because Elon Musk also said that a reason that they wanted this 5 things email was just to see if people are actually alive. Citing that there are some federal workers who might not even be alive. So, meantime, NBC is reporting that these responses are going to go into an AI generator to evaluate whether these jobs are necessary. So, is it just to see if people are actually working, or is it an effort to maybe cut some of those jobs?
I have not seen that NBC News report, and I haven't heard that from Doge or from Elon himself. Again, this is to ensure that federal workers are not ripping off American taxpayers, that they are showing up to the office, and that they are doing their jobs. That's what the American people expect, and it's a very simple task to complete. I did it myself, and I was more than happy to do it because I'm very grateful that I am serving the American people on the American taxpayers' dime.
Doge should hire a spokesperson just so that Elon Musk doesn't put out tweets that then confuse federal workers.
Are my press briefings not good enough for you, Jackie? John.
Carolyn, thank you. In the ruling by Judge McFadden yesterday, who dismissed the lawsuit that AP brought against yourself and your team members here, President Trump, in there he said, why not just do away with the entire White House Correspondents Association along with it, because essentially they have no authority, they just usurped it. What is your reaction to that?
Well, first of all, John, it's great to see you. And you are one of those individuals who has you're on a streaming platform that hundreds of thousands of people tune into every day. So it's great to see you in the briefing room. I did address that actually in my opening remarks by announcing that the White House press team in this administration will determine who gets to enjoy the very privileged and limited access in spaces such as Air Force One and the Oval Office. There are, as you know, look at this room, hundreds of journalists who show up to this building every single day and are not granted that luxury of flying on Air Force One and asking the President of the United States questions. And so we want to ensure, again, everyone has a seat at that highly coveted table. But alas, the legacy media outlets who have been doing this for quite some time and have invested resources into covering the White House, their spots will remain, just like they have in this briefing room as well. Sure. Steve.
Could you give us an update on the negotiations around the Ukraine minerals deal, and when is President Zelensky going to come visit?
So the president talked at length about this yesterday, the critical minerals deal with President Macron, and in the more than hour-long press conference he gave all of you in the Oval Office himself. There hasn't been significant updates since the president's remarks last night, but I will just reiterate his position. It's critical that this deal is signed. He expects President Zelensky to sign a deal. This is to recoup American tax dollars that have been funding Ukraine's national defense. And it's also great for the Ukrainian people who have been put through hell because of this war. And it will create a lasting economic partnership as Ukraine will need to rebuild their country because of this brutal war.
And just to follow, is Steve Witkoff delayed his trip to the Middle East so he can concentrate on this minerals deal?
I don't want to comment on Mr. Witkoff's travel plans or read anything out just for obvious reasons, but he, remains very much working. That man is working around the clock to secure this deal with Russia and Ukraine alongside Secretary Rubio and Secretary Bessent, General Keith Kellogg. He's also working very hard to secure a peace deal in the Middle East as well. So God bless him, and he's working alongside the president every single day. Sure.
Thanks, Caroline. The president's executive order creating Doge called for the naming of a Doge administrator. Who is the Doge administrator?
So the president tasked Elon Musk to oversee the Doge effort. There are career officials and there are political appointees who are helping run Doge on a day-to-day basis. There are also individuals who have onboarded as political appointees at every agency across the board to work alongside President Trump's cabinet to find and identify waste, fraud, and abuse, and they are working on that effort every day.
So is Elon
Reagan.
Musk the administrator?
Reagan.
Thanks, Caroline. I have two for you today, one on the border wall and one on the DHS investigation.
Sure.
First on the border wall construction has restarted in Texas and California under contracts awarded under Trump's first term. Is the president looking to secure new contracts, and how is he defining success in terms of border wall construction this administration?
The border wall is a signature promise of President Trump's campaign. He talked about it way back in 2015 and 2016, and people laughed at him for bringing up this idea. It's proven to be not only an idea that he delivered on in his first term and continues to deliver on in his second term, but it's also proven to be highly effective. In fact, we know where there were parts of President Trump's border wall built and standing under the previous administration, illegal border crossings dropped 87% where there was a border wall. So the wall is an incredible deterrent factor for illegal migrant caravans. The president is committed to the continuation of the construction of the wall. And, you know, the previous administration actually sold off the resources that the Trump administration secured to build the wall. And that's an egregious misuse of the American taxpayers' money. They just let those resources rot on the southern border. They actually sold them for pennies on the dollar. So this administration, DHS and ICE and Customs and Border Patrol and Tom Homan and all of the great people you know who are working on this effort are committed to continuing the construction of President Trump's border wall.
Investigation into people who might be leaking within the administration. Will the White House release the names of the individuals that DHS Secretary Noem said were caught leaking details of the ICE raid? And can you share how many leakers have been caught so far and what agency they were a part of?
I would defer you to DHS on the leakers that they have identified, but I know the president and this White House commend Secretary Noem for launching an internal investigation to identify those leakers because it's unacceptable for career bureaucrats who are standing in the way of the will of the American people and enacting President Trump's agenda. If they don't want to adhere to the will of the 77 million Americans who reelected President Trump, then they should go find another job. And if they continue to leak information, especially information that is critical to protecting Border Patrol agents and ICE agents who are out there doing jobs that not many people are willing to do, putting their lives on the line to protect our national security, then those individuals absolutely should be fired. And this administration is committed to finding them. Sure.
Caroline, two questions for you. One related to Guantanamo Bay, the other to the White House Correspondents' Dinner. I wanted to get your response to some Washington Post reporting of the migrants who stayed over at Guantanamo Bay for the last 2 weeks. They told the Post they were rarely let outside. They were shackled and placed in what they described as cages and alleged that they were not treated as human beings. Does the White House have any response to those conditions?
At Guantanamo Bay? It's a promise the president campaigned on, that if you invade our nation's borders, if you break our country's laws, and if then you further commit heinous, brutal crimes in the interior of our country, like raping and murdering innocent, law-abiding women and girls, and committing heinous acts of violence, then you are going to be deported from this country, and you may be held at Guantanamo Bay. These are criminals we are talking about. Don't forget that. Sure.
So U.S. consumer confidence fell this month the most since August of 2021. What is your message for Americans who are concerned about the impact of things such as tariffs on prices?
Yeah, sure. Well, thank you for that question. It's obviously an important one. The president campaigned on reigniting the Trump economy and fixing the mess that was created by the previous administration. We know they created an economic and an inflation nightmare for the American people, and I'm not going to stand up here and lie to you like my predecessor did about the state of our economy. We understand there are people that are hurting, and this administration is wholeheartedly committed to ensuring that those individuals see relief and price reductions and tax cuts and in less regulations that are burdensome on their household and their businesses. And the president and this entire administration are focused on that every day. I can go through the very long list of economic actions this president has taken. I know you work for Bloomberg, so I'm sure you're well aware of them, but I can assure the American people that the president is very much focused on bringing down the cost of living crisis in this country that was created by the previous administration.
Just have a quick follow-up.
Sure.
Is the president planning on whipping any votes for support for the House budget vote? And if so, to whom is he making calls?
I'm not aware of any calls that he has made. I did talk to the president about his position on this just before coming down here, and he said that he's made it very clear to the Hill what his priorities for a budget are. He's said it to the Speaker of the House. He said it to Leader Thune. The Senate and the House know what President Trump wants and know what the American people want. And so he expects Congress to get it done. He's looking at the proposal from the House. He will also be looking at the proposal that I believe the Senate is drafting up as well. Sure.
Thank you. Thank you. Carolina. I have two questions. Does the United States, sorry.
Well, why don't you identify your question and I'll come back to you. Sure, go ahead.
So, what guarantee that Israel will withdraw from Lebanon soil after 2 weeks, as the ceasefire terms indicates?
I'm not sure about the guarantee that you're referring to. I can tell you that this administration remains very much engaged. We know the deadline for the Phase 1 ceasefire is imminent. So Steve Woodcock, whom I mentioned earlier, and the President's administration and his team and the President himself remain very much engaged. We want to see the ceasefire continue, and the President has made it very clear he wants to see all of the hostages who have been held in captivity in Gaza returned home. Jeff.
Carolyn, I was wondering if is Elon Musk going to attend the president's first cabinet meeting tomorrow?
He is, as a matter of fact. I spoke to the president about that before coming down here as well. And Elon, considering he is working alongside the president and our cabinet secretaries, this entire administration will be in attendance tomorrow just to talk about DOJ's efforts and how all of the cabinet secretaries are identifying waste, fraud, and abuse at their respective agencies. We look forward to the meeting tomorrow, and I think you'll be hearing from the president and his cabinet where they're on campus tomorrow. I hope you guys are excited.
So some of those cabinet members were caught off guard by the email.
Nobody was caught off guard.
A few departments said they were caught off guard. The FBI was, the DOJ was.
Did anonymous sources say that, or did the cabinet secretary say that?
The cabinet secretaries and others have said that they were not aware that this was happening. So I'm wondering, will there be a give and take tomorrow at the cabinet meeting? Is Elon Musk or the president open to any type of dialogue about who is actually in charge of the chain of command of these workers?
I would reject the premise of your question, Jeff. The cabinet secretaries have not said that. I know anonymous sources, probably career bureaucrats, have leaked that to many of you in this room. But as I said at the beginning of this press conference, everybody is working as one team, and the president respects the decisions of his cabinet secretaries to tell their staff, not to respond to that email because they did so out of interests of national security, and they don't want to obviously risk confidential information. It's pretty common sense. Dasha.
Musk has obviously been doing a lot of work. He's been working every day, and a lot of the time weekends. He is designated as a special government employee, which means that he can only work 130 days per year. Is the White House expecting him to limit his work to 130 days, or are you going to work around those rules? Do you want to see him extend beyond the 130
So today is February 25th, so I think we've been here about 35 days, roughly. So ask me in another 100 days. Daniel.
Caroline, thank you. You opened up with a major announcement from Apple, $500 billion, 20,000 jobs, doubling its advanced manufacturing fund.
Yeah.
What does that signal that such a global brand would make what it called its largest ever spend commitment just a month into President Trump's second term? What does that signal about his economic vision for the country?
President Trump is a deal maker, and he has restored confidence in business leaders around this entire world. Apple is one of the largest companies on the face of the planet. They employ hundreds of thousands of Americans, but the president wants to see more Americans employed, more investments here in the United States of America. And this is another fulfillment of the president's campaign promises. I recall President Trump at his rallies on the campaign telling the world that if and when I am elected, America is going to be back, and we want your investments to be driven onshore. We want you to hire American workers, and you will have the lowest regulatory burden, the lowest tax cuts, and the president has already proven he's committed to slashing regulation. He's counting on Congress to implement those tax cuts. And so people are encouraged by the president's, again, as Tim Cook called it, they're bullish about American innovation because of the leadership of this president. And it's a stark contrast to the leadership of the previous administration, Joe Biden, who I don't think spent any time trying to recruit any investments or jobs here at home. Mary.
We're hearing from some Republicans who are voicing concerns about how these cuts are being carried out. Congressman McCormick, a Republican from Georgia, tells us he's worried it's too rapid for real people to adapt to. And he says he's concerned that it could come off as discompassionate, in his words, that it could risk undercutting the strong message that he feels you're trying to send about the need to cut government waste.
Well, I think that that was one comment from one senator, and I think, as I cited in my opening remarks in the poll, the most important people are the American people, and 77% of Americans at home support a full investigation into the waste, fraud, and abuse that the federal government has been spending their tax dollars on. So that's the people the president cares about most, and that's why we're fulfilling this pledge. And again, it should come as no secret to anybody. The president campaigned on doing this.
The president yesterday said, if you don't respond to this email, you will be fired or semi-fired. What does he mean by that?
Again, I've been asked to answer this question 3 times now. It is
semi-fired.
But it's in the memo. The president again has entrusted his cabinet secretaries to oversee their workforce. That's why he nominated them to be cabinet secretaries, and so federal workers can be directed to their agency leadership. Sure.
Great, thanks, Caroline. I wanted to ask about a federal judge yesterday was saying that they didn't know who the Doge administrator was and was asking the lawyer for the administration who it was, and the lawyer responded, "I don't know the answer to that. Can you tell us who the administrator of Doge is?"
Again, I've been asked and answered this question. Elon Musk is overseeing Doge. No, Elon Musk is a special government employee, which I've also been asked and have answered that question as well. There are career officials at Doge. There are political appointees at Doge. I'm not going to reveal the name of that individual from this podium. I'm happy to follow up and provide that to you. But we've been incredibly transparent about the way that Doge is working. John.
The Republican budget.
Thanks a lot, Caroline. Since your last briefing, there have been some personnel moves that have been announced by the president, and I wanted to ask you about them. One was the president replacing the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General C.Q. Brown Jr. What was the reason for the president naming a replacement for General Brown? And then I'll follow up with another personnel announcement that's been made over the last few days.
He thinks he's doing a bad job, and it's time for a shakeup at the Pentagon. They failed 7 audits in a row. The trust in our United States military amongst the war fighters is low. The president is shaking up the Pentagon and the Department of Defense, of course, with Secretary Hegseth leading, and he has the right to do that. It's actually quite common from administration to administration to do such a thing.
The president, when he swore him in as the Chief of Staff for the Air Force, called him a great man and a great gentleman. Does he distance himself from the remarks that he made back in August of 2020?
I think replacing him speaks for itself. James.
There's one other one, if I'm sorry. Thank you. On the FBI, the president also announced Deputy Director of the FBI, Dan Bongino. From what has been reported, and maybe this is not accurate reporting, you can tell me, the FBI Director, Kash Patel, informed Republican senators that it would be an individual named as the deputy who was a special agent currently at the FBI, and of course Mr. Bongino is not. What was the reason for naming Mr. Bongino to this position, and was Mr. Patel not correct in making that assurance to those senators?
I'm not sure if anybody in this room has listened to Mr. Bongino when he talks about the past corruption at the FBI, when he talks about his experience serving for the United States Secret Service. This is a man who loves his country and who has honorably served our country in ways that many people have not. He understands the depth of the corruption at these institutions, which the American people re-elected President Trump to shake up. And I think it's quite despicable to see many networks in this room who have had chyrons on their television screens labeling Mr. Bongino as a far-right podcaster. He is not. He is a former law enforcement agent. He is a former Secret Service agent who put his life on the line to protect this country, and that is why the President of the United States has entrusted him for this important role. He's also an outsider to this Washington swamp, and we often see that when outsiders are appointed to such coveted positions, a lot of people in this city get very, very nervous, and they should be, because Dan Bongino and Kash Patel and Attorney General Bondi are focused on rooting out the corruption at these agencies and ending the weaponization of government once and for all. I'd like to end with something. As you all know, you know what, James? I'm feeling generous. Go ahead.
I will take it. Thank you, Caroline.
Sure.
I wanted to ask
Don't make me regret this.
I wanted to ask about the Macron visit and the Russia-Ukraine talks in general.
Sure.
It's pretty clear to my eye that President Macron was performing a kind of delicate dance, lavishing praise on the president while seeking remarks to try to bind President Trump to positions and even specific language that the president has not committed to heretofore. One of the most bracing comments from President Macron was when he said that the deal that President Trump is negotiating with the Russians must not be, quote, a surrender for Ukraine. All of the public points that we have heard from President Trump, from Secretary Hegseth, and from other administration officials talking about these negotiations have averred to, quite openly, to concessions from the Ukrainians that will have to be made. The minerals deal, the abandonment of their NATO ambitions, and other elements. So far, we have not heard any administration official suggest a single concession that the Russians should be prepared to make. And so I wonder if you could assure us, at a minimum, that this negotiation process will not be as one-sided as the Europeans seem to think it is, that in fact, President Putin will also be made to engage in some concessions to reach this deal.
Well, I think the president knows how to make a deal better than anyone who has ever assumed the office of the American presidency. And in order to make a deal, you have to bring both sides to the table. And typically when you make a good deal, both sides leave that table a little bit unhappy. I'm not going to outline the concessions that the president and his team are engaged in discussing. These are obviously ongoing negotiations, and it would be unwise of me to impede them from this podium. But the president has made significant improvements in ending this conflict. He is committed to seeing an end to the war. He wants to see the bloodshed and the killing stopped. He wants to stop seeing young men being killed and slaughtered. This has been going on for far too long. The president inherited this mess because of the incompetence of the previous administration, and he's committed to fixing it. And he's made some of those concessions clear, but I'm not going to get ahead of him on additional ones. But he is wholeheartedly committed to striking a peace deal in Russia and Ukraine, also in the Middle East. Thank you very much, guys. See you. We'll see you later.
All right, that was the White House press briefing with Carolyn Levitt. So there you go. What did you guys think of the White House press briefing? It's interesting. Oops, by the way, I have to fix the headline here. Let me take some comments from you guys, see what you guys thought, and I'm going to change the headline to White House press briefing post coverage. That's what I'll do. What did you guys think? It was interesting. She said that Elon Musk will be in the first cabinet meeting that is happening tomorrow. Okay, I'm going to read some comments here from you guys. Let's see here. Tessie Simp says, same old, same old. Mellow Fellow says, what an informative briefing. Jay Hitchcock says, a whole lot of nothing. Mind Crime OPS says, infinitely better than last administration. Let's see here. DC said, great briefing, very transparent. Another one of our viewers just said, propaganda. Mr. Clam says, who is actually in charge? John C. says, she is great. Sean Lindsay says, like an RT show. Johnny thought it was excellent and awesome. There was an interesting, at the start they talked about the White House press pool, which is like, as I understand it, they let like a limited amount of people kind of follow the president around. Let me just get you an update on exactly what that is. But she said that they're no longer going to be letting the White House Correspondents Association determine who's in the press pool, and they're going to have other people in the press pool who previously wouldn't be in it. So Google Gemini AI says the White House press pool is a group of journalists selected to represent all accredited White House correspondents at events where space is limited or access is otherwise restricted. This ensures the American public is informed about the president's activities even when not all journalists can be present, such as meetings in the Oval Office, trips on Air Force One, smaller gatherings. And it's interesting because Gemini AI said, the White House Correspondents Association plays a significant role in organizing and overseeing the press pool. But from what Press Secretary Leavitt said, it sounds like the White House Correspondents Association is not going to have as much say in the press pool anymore. So I'm interested to hear some more about that. Let's see here. I take some more comments from you guys about the briefing. Any other thoughts about the briefing? Marilyn Ferriello says Jen Psaki and Karine Jean-Pierre, previous press secretaries, never gave clear answers. I wonder if we'll get a comment from the White House Correspondents Association about her announcement about the press pool. But I don't see anything about it here yet on their social media. Let's see here. Jay Hitchcock says, she says Elon is in charge, but some unnamed person is in charge. Several reporters asked who the Doge administrator was. And she said she was not going to say it from the podium, but she suggested she would say it not on the podium. I have to get you a little more on that. Let's see here. There was an article in the New York Times a week ago entitled, "Who Runs Doge? Not Musk, the White House Says." And it points out that when Trump set up Doge in an executive order, the executive order said there shall be a administrator of Doge established in the executive office of the president who shall report to the White House chief of staff. But the White House has denied that Mr. Elon Musk is the U.S. Doge service administrator. So a couple questions today were, who is the Doge administrator? But the White House has not said at this point. Actually, I can show you here how it's mentioned. Here, look. So this is the executive order. Hang on. Where is here? Establishing and implementing the President's Department of Government Efficiency. This is from January 20th, Inauguration Day. This executive order establishes the Department of, oops, we don't need this live thing up there, right there, even though we're live. Where is the, here we go. This executive order establishes the Department of Government Efficiency to implement the President's Doge agenda by modernizing federal technology and software to maximize governmental efficiency and productivity. Seems like maybe they're doing other stuff besides that, but that's a different issue. Where is the thing about the administrator? There shall be a USDS, which is DOGE, United States DOGE Service. There shall be an administrator established in the executive office of the president who shall report to the White House Chief of Staff. The U.S. DOGE Service temporary organization shall be headed by a USDS administrator. Does it mention the administrator anywhere else? Let's see. Agency head shall select the DOGE team members in consultation with the DOGE administrator. The administrator shall commence a software modernization initiative. The administrator shall work with agency heads. So agency head is, so again, there is supposed to be somebody who's technically in charge of DOGE. It says that DOGE shall be headed by the administrator. So that's according to the executive order. So again, there were several questions in the press briefing. Who is the administrator? And that was not being answered yet by the White House publicly. Just a little background on that. By the way, thanks to I Love Cookies for the gift membership. Thank you to Jasper Axelrod, our member. Axelrad. Thanks to Babs, our new member. Thanks to Karen G, our new member. Thanks Mitchell Pilot for your support. Mitchell Pilot says press secretaries have always been a little combative with the press. She's doing her job. Thanks Lexa Fulmer, our member. Thank you Rule for your support. Rule thinks that the White House is not naming the DOGE administrator because the snowflakes will go after them. They can't go after Elon, hence why he's the face. Oh, really quick, I'm going to show you something really quick. There is USA government employee, speaking of DOGE, there is a government employee protest going on outside the Health and Human Services headquarters against President Trump's advisor Elon Musk's campaign to push out tens of thousands of federal workers. So here's a little bit of a live shot from this protest going on. This is a live shot of this protest by federal government employee unions.
Thank you, President Weingarten. Next up, we have AFL-CIO President Liz Shuler.
Thank you so much, Margaret. It is an absolute honor to be here with you today, and I'm standing here strong and in support of all the people you see behind me and all the people across this country who are saying enough is enough. And I'm so honored to be here with Randy and Todd and all of our movement leaders. But I really want to thank Amalia, and I want to thank Annika, who you'll hear from in a minute, because sharing their stories takes so much courage in this moment, if you think about what we're grappling with. And I want to just appeal to all the activists who are out there today. I'm here standing on behalf of AFL-CIO, which is a federation of 63 unions, 15 million working people. And we're standing up for all working people. We're standing here today on behalf of our heroes, the higher ed workers, the researchers, the allied workers at colleges and universities. And we are saying today, you're not just taking them on, you're taking on the entire labor movement of 15 million workers. Now, I heard there's an email going around. Someone wants to know, what is it, the 5 things that someone got done last week if you worked in the federal government? So I thought I'd start with the 5 off the top of my head for Elon. We cure cancer. We treat Alzheimer's. We stop pandemics. We come up with miracle drugs like Ozempic that tens of millions of Americans count on, and we save lives. How about those 5 things? Are those 5 things good enough for you? Because that is what these workers do every single day, not every week, every single day. So Elon, you don't need to bother with that email. I'll tell you something. If you want to threaten our labs, our equipment, our tools that we need to do these jobs, if you want to say curing cancer is a bad investment for the government to be making, then why don't you give back the $18 billion in federal loans that you have taken over the past 10 years? That's right, no more billionaire welfare. Now, we all know what happens next. They hand over all the research that we paid for as American taxpayers to Big Pharma. They hand it over to private companies and billionaires who are going to leech off our work. And then they make what? Billions more on the backs of our scientists and our researchers, and we say no more. Because that is not okay. So we are telling you, just as Randy said, we are here today because we are going to fight back. Are we going to stand up and fight back? Yeah. We're going to fight like our jobs depend on it. Yeah. We're going to fight back like our lives depend on it, literally. Because they do. We are going to fight like hell. And look around you today, because this is power. We could reach millions and millions of people across this country because we know the best way to fight back against bullies is to band together. And we build our power. Are you ready to build our power? That's what I thought. Thank you.
Maybe we'll just watch some of the next speaker.
Thank you, Liz. Up next, we have AFSCME Secretary Treasurer Alyssa McBride.
Union family, let me hear you if you are ready to take a stand for our communities, for our co-workers, and for our country. I'm the Secretary Treasurer at AFSCME, and we are proud to be 1.4 million members strong, thousands of them in hospitals and universities and veterans' homes. We show up for our communities with care and with courage and with compassion. And we're proud to link arms in solidarity with you here in D.C. and virtually, those who are tuning in. We are the frontline workers who keep our communities safe and strong. These are researchers and lab techs and janitors and maintenance workers. Because when they say indirect costs, you know what they're talking about? Human beings who clean labs and keep generators going and maintain special equipment because we make science happen. Like at Oregon Health and Science University, which is a research powerhouse full of brilliant minds, heads, and hearts and hands, putting an end to Alzheimer's and cancer and opioid addiction. Those are AFSCME members like Lynn Swarbrick, who's been taking on tuberculosis for 23 years. And her funding comes from the NIH. Slashing those costs is a direct hit on her co-workers, but most importantly on our nation's capacity to fight deadly disease. And that's why we've got to stop them from slashing through our healthcare systems, our research, our beloved healthcare system, because more Americans will get sick, more infectious disease will spread, more medical progress will grind to a halt, and more of our neighbors will be in harm's way. Because we prevent disease, we prevent death, we prevent disaster, and we prevent disinformation.
All right, so I just wanted to show you some of that protest going on. It's going out outside HHS headquarters in Washington, D.C. Reuters describes it as government employee unions protest outside the HHS headquarters against U.S. President Trump's advisor Elon Musk's campaign to push out tens of thousands of federal workers. So just wanted to show you that. Let's see here. And take some more comments from you guys. If you missed it, we had the White House press briefing earlier. You can rewind and go watch it if you'd like to. You know, I don't think there's been a Pentagon briefing yet in the new administration. I may be wrong, but I don't think there has been. So maybe we'll cover one of those at some point. By the way, thank you to Bebop and Rocksteady, who says they could have sent at least 2 emails since we started watching this. Hang on one moment here. I don't know also, I guess the first cabinet meeting is tomorrow. That was said in the press briefing. The White House press secretary said Elon Musk will be in attendance. I don't know if there's going to be like a video of that. Maybe there'll be like a short video where they show everybody or something. So we'll have to see. All right. Are there other things I wanted to mention here? Give me a moment. I will check. A couple of our viewers were talking about the budget negotiations. Remember, March 14th is the deadline when government funding runs out, unless there is a new budget bill passed. There will be a government shutdown. You can see here, the Washington Post has an article, "It's crunch time for House Speaker Johnson in the GOP's Big Beautiful Bill. Republicans push to enact President Trump's tax, immigration, national defense, and energy agenda is at risk of faltering," lawmakers say, as House Speaker Johnson attempts to coax his slim majority, I think it's a 3-vote majority, into an agreement that still may be far away. Johnson is set to put a budget resolution up for a floor vote today, but is facing a potential revolt from swing district Republicans wary of cuts to social safety net benefits and fiscal hawks who say the bill's $2 trillion in spending cuts don't reach far enough into federal coffers. So you have some Republican House members who want more spending cuts and some Republican House members who want less spending cuts. This legislation would start the reconciliation process, a legislative mechanism that would allow the GOP to head off a Democratic Senate filibuster. But the competing demands, with some Republican House members wanting more spending cuts, some Republican House members wanting less spending cuts, the competing demands to have box in the speaker and could put the brakes on Trump's legislative plans. Today's vote tees up another high-stakes test for the Republicans, who have openly feuded over spending issues for nearly 2 years. The GOP-controlled Senate is planning a 2-step approach to passing Trump's agenda with a pair of reconciliation bills, an approach Johnson sees as a backup plan. So we'll see what happens on that. Something to keep in mind, major portions of Trump's 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act expire at the end of 2025, meaning most taxpayers will see a rate hike if Congress does not act. Extending those tax cut provisions could add roughly $5 trillion to the national debt over 10 years. And Trump has ordered Republicans to include new expensive tax policies in the bill too, including ending taxes on tips, ending taxes on Social Security benefits and overtime wages, and raising the cap on state and local tax deductions. Together, the package could add up to $11.25 trillion over 10 years to the United States' existing $36.2 trillion in debt, according to the Nonpartisan Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget. To pay down the cost of all of this, Republican committee leaders have been on the hunt for spending cuts. The budget resolution issues instructions to committees to come up with new spending or cuts, but the actual policies are up to the committees themselves. Between 8 and 10 House Republicans who could face tight re-election campaigns have signaled they would reject Johnson's proposal, according to 2 lawmakers familiar with the talks, because of cuts to Medicaid. So we will have to see what's going to happen. We have about 17 days until the March 14th deadline. Thomas Darwin thinks 17 days will fly by. Look, we could be here in a couple weeks covering a possible government shutdown. We'll have to see if they can reach an agreement. The Republicans in Congress. We will see. By the way, the White House press secretary, if you remember from the White House press briefing we just saw, said a couple times that she completed the email from Elon Musk. She replied to it listing what she had done this week. And she was saying it was very easy for her to do. So the U.S. Office of Personnel Management posted her email. They said, giving 5 bullets on what you did last week is so easy that even the busy White House press secretary found time to do it. Now, I think for a lot of people who are upset by this email, the idea is not that they don't have time to write a response. It's something more like, getting this email suggests my job is at risk. So I need to figure out what to write so I don't get fired because I don't know what you're looking for. So that could be one kind of response. It's not necessarily, oh, I don't have a couple minutes to write any old email. If you think you might lose your job and your ability to feed your children based on what you write in this email, you might not think it's so easy to write it. Just to be clear here. Anyways, but here is what the press secretary wrote. Also, there's other issues. I'm not saying that's the only issue. Some people might have an issue saying like, well, isn't my supervisor the one who's responsible for deciding whether I keep my job? Who are these other people writing to me? Saying, why am I answering to them? So there's other issues that people would have here. Anyways, here is what the White House said. Here is what the White House said that Carolyn Leavitt wrote in response to that email. They just, not the White House, the Trump administration, U.S. Office of Personnel Management. They have posted this. So here is the press secretary's response to the email from Carolyn Leavitt. 5 things I did last week. Hello, Taylor. In the effort of transparency and accountability, I am pleased to inform you of 5 tasks that I completed last week, though the list of everything I completed is much longer. 1. Held a press briefing to mark 1 month of the Trump administration with special guests Mike Waltz, Stephen Miller, and Kevin Hassett. 2. Gave speech at CPAC. 3. Staffed POTUS for CPAC speech on Saturday. 4. Joined Fox News. 5. Participated in Media Row on the EEOB. P.S. I am so grateful to have a job and work hard on behalf of the American taxpayers who fund my salary. This email took me 2 minutes to draft. Thank you. Carolyn Levitt, White House Press Secretary. There it is. Michael Edge, our viewer, says, it's very simple if you are working and doing your job productively. It's an easy thing to do. Sign of the Times says, national security risk, telling people to write down 5 tasks with clearance. Tammy Ann David says that's a great example. Tricia Liderson says condescending in all aspects. Hey, thank you to Tim Glenn. Tim Glenn says this is hilarious to see these paper pushing, if they even do that, bureaucrats complain when actual tax-paying laborers do actual work. Hang on a moment here. Oh, I don't know if it's going to happen anytime soon. I don't necessarily want to wait for this. Because this happened previously. Another thing on the White House schedule today was President Trump signs executive orders, and it was technically on the schedule for 3 p.m. Last week we did a stream where they never actually came out with video. And they really didn't even, I don't even know if he ended up signing any executive orders that day. So I don't think I'm going to wait around for that. If there's big news, we can come back on the air and do another stream. But I don't think I'm going to wait around for it. Anyways. All right, you know what? I think we're getting to that time. We came on the air to cover the White House press briefing. Let me just do a quick check and see if I have any more breaking news for you. But if there's big news, we will come back on the air. Oh, hold on a second. I'm seeing a report. Michael Horowitz, I don't know where Michael's getting this. Michael Horowitz, this would probably be a different stream anyway. Michael Horowitz, who I follow, posted he's hearing that Ukraine has said to reach agreement with U.S. on minerals and resources. I haven't heard that elsewhere, but that's certainly something I'll keep an eye on. If there's some official announcement. Medusa in English. Medusa, I follow. Who said? Where are they? They're posting this? Where are they getting this from? Oh, the Financial Times is reporting this. The Financial Times, I guess, is reporting this. Let's see. Okay, the Financial Times says Ukrainian officials say, this has not been confirmed, the Financial Times is reporting that Ukraine has agreed to terms with Washington on a minerals deal that Ukraine hopes will improve relations with the Trump administration and pave the way for a long-term security commitment. That's from the Financial Times. They reported that like an hour ago. I don't know if that's true. If we get some kind of official announcement, maybe we'll come on and cover it. There's been talk that there would be this deal between Ukraine and the Trump White House, where Ukraine would agree to give the U.S. some degree of its mineral resources, and the White House would perhaps give some sort of security guarantees to Ukraine and or maybe agree to not cut off all funding to them. That's not an official announcement. That's something that the Financial Times reported. Okay, so Victor Harshman, our viewer, says no deal yet, but talks going on. No official word about a deal. President Trump yesterday said he thought that President Zelensky could visit the U.S. this week or next week to sign a deal. Wickedest Witch says, I read that somewhere else. Yeah, so I don't have that. That's not confirmed at this point, but certainly worth keeping an eye on. Our viewer Lookner, who's named Lookner, thought that the press secretary during the press briefing seemed to make statements rather than answer questions evasive. Oh, by the way, PW360 also sent me this. Thank you, PW360. It's a little while ago, the Financial Times claim that Ukraine has agreed to terms with Washington on a minerals deal. But we'll have to see. I mean, I'll believe that when I see it. Hang on a moment here. Some of our viewers are messaging me about oh, by the way, our viewer Ken Harford MBI says, isn't it refreshing to actually have an honest press briefing? That's what Ken Harford says. Tony Del Monte says, I wonder when the gas prices are going to go back down. Some viewers messaged me about a aircraft near miss being reported. I don't know the details on this. Here, Southwest jet narrowly avoids colliding with business jet at Chicago airport. Reuters says a Southwest jet was forced to abort a landing at Chicago Midway Airport on Tuesday in a serious near-miss incident after a business jet entered the runway without authorization, the FAA said. Did the FAA post about this? Hold on a second here. I'll read you more about that. I just want to see if they posted about it on their website, so I can get you their actual statement. Oh, I got it. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. I'm going to show you their statement. Let's see here. I'm going to post a video on my X account. I'm going to repost a video here. WTVC News Channel 9 posted this. A Southwest jet attempting to land in Chicago, nearly colliding with another aircraft. Hold on. What is this? Yeah, I don't. Oh, here we go. I'm going to post a link to the video. First of all, here is a video. It's a plane that came in and it was landing and it had to pull up because a business jet crossed over in front of it. It's crazy. Okay, so I'm posting the link in the chat to the video right now. I just posted a link in the chat that Pete Montine posted this video. This is Midway Airport, okay? Sorry, I just saw this. The crew of a Southwest flight, this is the FAA saying this, the crew of a Southwest Airlines Flight 2504 initiated a go-around when a business jet entered the runway without authorization at Chicago Midway Airport. The FAA is investigating the incident, which occurred around 8:50 a.m. local time. The plane was landing and then pulled up. It's crazy. I just posted the link in the chat. That was crazy. Thanks to the viewers for messaging me about it. I'm going to post the link again in the chat, the video, but it really is crazy. I just posted it again in the chat. Pete Montine of CNN posted the video. But the plane is coming down to land, and it pulls up right at the last minute. It's basically on the runway. It's just about landing, and right before it touches down, it pulls up. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Okay, here's what we're going to do. I don't have video myself I can show you of that yet. I don't have the rights to the video. But hang on a second here. All right, here's what we're going to do. So, Phil says not the first time at Midway. I don't know if there's been one like this. Maybe there has been there before. I'm not sure. But it was pretty crazy. Anyways, I reposted it on my X account. I posted a link in the chat. You can check it out. But that was really close. One of our viewers said Jaime Villa said someone should use their pilot license for only this one incident. Thank you, Mitchell Pilot, who says, I was a student pilot. They train you for these situations. What really helped is good visibility. Thank you so much, Mitchell Pilot. Thanks also Ascertainment for your support on Twitch, and Oxytropis and Aloha Charles. I applied aloha, Charles. Thank you. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap up this stream because we're a little bit after the press briefing, the White House press briefing. But if there's big news today, I'll come back on and do another stream. That very well could happen. But we came on to cover the press briefing, and we're done with the press briefing, and we talked about it, and you can rewind and watch it. So let me get off the air. Maybe I'm going to eat something. But I'll keep an eye on news, and if there's big news, we'll come back on the air. Okay? So I really appreciate you guys tuning in for our live stream, and also those of you who have been commenting in the chat and letting me read your comments on the air and sending me news updates. Big thank you to all of you, and we'll certainly have more live coverage here of breaking news soon. So subscribe and follow Agenda Free TV. We cover all kinds of live breaking news without an agenda here. And turn on the notifications. I can never tell you when big news is going to happen. So if you want to know when we're going live, we have a free notification system. It works awesome. You get sent a notification every time we go live. It's free. We do it through Discord. Sign up to that. The mods will post the link to the notifications in the chat. So make sure you sign up for that. Also, in the video description of this broadcast on YouTube and Facebook, you can find the link to the notifications there. And also, follow me on X for news updates. I constantly post there breaking news updates on my X account @Lookner, and I will post a link to that in the chat. And huge thanks to our moderators. You guys are awesome. A lot of people chatting today as usual, and we could not have our chat rooms without our mods. They are the ones keeping it under control and civil and respectful there. So thank you so much to our mods, Beth Mythical over there on YouTube, and Janet B, and all of our other moderators over there, Linda Belk, Larry, Misha on X. Over on Twitch, moderators like A Moment of Lovely, Bastion Girl, I Got That Fire, Matthew Kohai 3, Surly Dev, thank you. And on Facebook, Kay Lowry Body, Margaret Riley, Paul Anderson. Thanks to all of our moderators. I really appreciate it. Thanks to everybody who donated to the channel. So nice of you guys. Your support is what keeps the channel on the air, so I really appreciate it. Thank you. I think I thanked everybody. I think I did. If you ever want to donate, you go to agendafree.tv, agendafree.tv. But thank you for your support. Also, let's see here. Hang on a moment. We have a chat. You can chat with other viewers when we're not on the air. It's free. We do it through Discord. A bunch of viewers like doing the Discord chat. Check it out. It's the same link as the notifications link. And thanks so much to our Discord mods for all of your help. Our Discord moderators, thank you. And another good way to find out when we're live and keep up with the channel, follow us on X @AgendaFreeTV. I always post here when we go live, and I will post updates about the channel there too, @AgendaFreeTV on X. And if you are a YouTube viewer, make sure you subscribe and you turn on the notifications on YouTube. It's a little weird how you have to turn on the notifications on YouTube. Here's how you do it. If you're on YouTube, you got to subscribe. And after you subscribe, if you want to turn on your notifications, you got to click this bell and then choose all notifications. So make sure you have that done if you subscribe on YouTube. Let's see here. Thanks to all of our Facebook subscribers for supporting the channel by subscribing over there, like Eve Richards, Robert Rial II, Margaret Riley, Kay Lowry Body, Lou Green, Sharon Klassen Gosselin, and Michael Clayton, and all of our other Facebook subscribers. Really appreciate your support over there. Our Twitch subscribers, like, hang on a moment, Matthew Kohai 3, Wall Street, Shaggy, Distant Galaxy, Ascertainment, Moment of Lovely, Namaxwe, Bogan 04, Massachusetts guy who says Southwest Pilot is quick thinking hero. JRG 770, Night Owl, all of our other viewers over there all of our other subscribers on Twitch and our viewers on Twitch too. And thanks to our YouTube members like J.K. Sinar, Barb Mack, Rick D, Eliza Jane, Lucky Minute, Doug Cahill, Roger Shoemaker, Jeed Romaine, Per Holstrand, Cryptician, Thomas Darwin, Joanne, the one and only, Ellie Lassetti, Jesse's Girl, J.K. Sinar, Barry, and all of our other YouTube members, thank you. And everybody for watching. Thanks so much, everybody else, for watching. Simon B., Jay Hitchcock, and Billy Joe. Thank you for watching. Paula Thompson, Suzanne Berry, and all of our other viewers. Thank you. All right, so I'm going to wrap this up. If you missed it, rewind and watch the briefing. If there's big news later, we'll come back on the air. So that is it for now. Thank you again so much for being with us, and we'll see you soon with more live breaking news coverage right here at Agenda Free TV.